Hey there, welcome to this video. I'm excited that you're here to watch this today as we talk about personal branding with Amy Beaulieu. Hey Amy, how are you?
I'm doing great today. Thanks, Sid.
I'm so glad that you're joining me. I'm super excited to have you. So why
Yeah,
don't you, before we get started, tell the people watching this video in our community who you are, what you do, and who you serve.
sure. My name is Amy Beaulieu, as Sid said, and I am so happy to be here to talk about personal branding today. I come to you with a background, half my career in social work, doing therapy with individuals, and I moved all of that human expertise, human behavior expertise into the coaching and leadership development world for the last 12 or 13 years of my career. So today I freelance, owning my own leadership development company called 3Shoes. And I serve both businesses and individuals. Businesses who are looking to get training for their leaders, as well as individuals who are looking for the coaching support to keep advancing their performance.
Okay, awesome. So Amy, you and I have met a couple of times. We had some conversations or so last year, and then a few weeks ago, we were on a what if up session together. And
Yeah,
so
that
we
was tremendous.
reconnected. Yeah. And that's when I kind of pinged you right in the middle of the what if up and said, hey, would you join me for an interview? And you took me up on it. So it's kind of a what if
Yeah,
up idea.
sure.
That's
You're
great.
helping me get one of my ideas in action. So thank you for
That's
that.
great. Well, I'm glad that you're here. And, as we all know, this whole COVID-19 thing is really impacting our world right now. And,
Yeah.
there are a lot of people that have been displaced. I mean, I think the most recent statistic was like 15 million people in the last 30 days have been displaced. And, the reason that we put up what reason that I did what I'm doing is to support the community of people that found themselves
Yep.
looking for a job. Some of them have worked in the same company 5, 10, 15 years, haven't looked for a job in a long time. And honestly, some of them just don't know some of the latest tips and tricks. So what I want to talk about with you today was about personal branding to support this community and really trying to understand what personal branding is. So if you're okay, let's start right there.
Super.
All right.
Yeah, and
So go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. What is a personal brand?
yeah. And, I've got to speak to the point you just made as well, because you're triggering me to think about what my coaching clients are coming to me with. And, I just am starting work with a woman who, after 18 years at the same company, I mean, in essence, that means she grew up. So her personal brand is the blood, sweat, and tears of that
Mhm.
company. And she grew up in that company. So
Right.
this topic is so relevant, as you
Mhm.
said, just so many people affected by it.
Mhm.
So the simplest way I want you to think about personal branding is the new buzz term for what we used to call reputation. It's as
Okay.
simple as that. So what are you known for? What would people describe you as? In fact, what words would they use if you had to give your colleagues, your
Mhm.
bosses, your peers, your friends, family, if you put out there the question of what 3 words would you use to describe me,
Mm.
that's going to clue you in as to what your personal brand is.
Sure.
So in reality, I would say it's your reputation, and it's about what you stand for
Mhm.
because of what you're known for, and vice versa.
Okay. So I think that's a great definition. I love the way you described it as it's your reputation and it is what you've known for, kind of who you are.
Yeah.
And, the 3 words exercise is something that a lot of people have gone through 10 years ago, but we still use today in the world of coaching is use the 3 words that describe you. A lot of cases now we might transpose that to values and what are the 3 values
Yep.
that you resonate the most with. But
And
so we,
that shows up in your personal brand.
oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, as
Yeah.
it should, right? I mean, your
Yes.
values should absolutely show up in your personal brand. So,
That's
all right, so
right.
we got a clarity that a personal brand is your reputation. It's a symbol of your values, your beliefs, and your work experience, if you will.
Yep.
So, why is a personal brand important?
Well, it's important whether it's a good brand or a bad brand, and I will say
Okay.
that because more than half of employers now, when they're hiring, look to see what you're doing online. And
Mm-hmm.
they're looking to see what you show up as. Because if your personal brand online is one way and your personal brand in person is different, that alone, that inconsistency alone rings a red flag, raises a red flag for
Mm-hmm.
somebody. um, Reputation and personal brand, it should be consistent so
Okay.
that your professional behaviors and your personal behaviors align with the same caliber of integrity.
Sure.
So at this point, personal brand is very public. Back in the day, I'm not going to age myself here, but
It's okay.
when
You'd
I
age
was,
me too, so
you
it's okay.
know, when I was going through high school and college, I didn't have, 400 to 500 followers from other cities and towns, or countries for that matter.
Right.
I have very young nieces and nephews who, they've had that personal, online presence from, teenage years who are now in college. And I laugh because I think sometimes they get more followers and likes on their social posts than mine. But
Sure.
it's important because personal branding is so important because that consistency of your reputation, of what you are standing for,
Hmm.
shows up much more today than it ever has.
Hmm.
Whether you know the person or they're looking you up as a perfect stranger,
Hmm.
how public you are will make a difference in what people perceive you as.
Hmm.
So the 3-word exercise may shift depending on who you ask.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, what I think is interesting about what you just said was that, your personal brand shows up in a lot of different places, but it really shows up online, and it needs to
Yeah.
be in alignment and consistent
Yeah.
with, or authentic with, who you are in person.
Yeah. And, I think we show up differently online. We also have a tendency to show up differently in groups versus one-on-one.
Hmm.
And so, as important as it is to think about personal brand as being public online, that's if you choose to. Let's not forget the in-person version of you is more critical than anything
Sure.
because that's either going to keep you employed
Hmm.
or advance your employment.
Hmm.
And so I bring this up of the distinction. I think of people who do really well one-to-one,
Hmm.
yet they get into a group setting, a team meeting, or some other platform where it's a group, and they show up as the class clown. And although humor, I very much welcome humor in the workplace,
Hmm.
if humor is overused, your personal brand now becomes you're the class clown. You're not the one who we're going to rely upon when we need to get through a crisis or a time
Hmm.
crunch or some sort of mishap with a vendor.
Right.
So it's that kind of branding that we need to think about. How do I show up one-to-one? How do I show up in a group? How do I show up in my online presence as well? So the other place that I see personal brands accidentally shifting because of our own confidence or comfort levels or lack thereof, I see it when people have a certain title versus not having a title. And
Hmm.
so that also goes along with our personal brand. If I move up through the ranks, I was a peer one day and now I'm a leader. How do I handle that shift? How do I use
Hmm.
my personal brand to be a leader of integrity and
Sure.
a leader people want to follow? So it's all intertwined and layered, as you will.
So it sounds like it's kind of reframe that for you a minute. It's like a big web, right?
Sure,
Of your personal
absolutely.
brand shows up in so many different places. And you said one-to-one, group, online, and then based on your title. And again, I'll draw it back to, excuse me, the importance of authenticity, the
Oh,
importance of
thank you for
being
saying
you.
that.
Yeah, the importance of being you in all
Yeah,
these environments, one-to-one, group, or online. Just be the same person, and
yeah,
that's be you, which is authenticity, right?
that's right.
Yeah.
There's a phrase out there that, I forget how it goes now, but it's something like be yourself, everyone else is taken, or something like, and I
Yeah.
always say be yourself because it takes so much energy to be somebody else. So I love that you say this because I know you and I have chatted about this topic a little bit before, and it's important that you're making connections, and that's where your personal brand is going to come from. So authenticity matters when you're interacting with people. Again, whether it's online or not, people are going to be gravitating toward other people that they feel a connection to.
Sure.
So finding connections with people, especially in the workplace.
Mhm.
I'm flashing back to one of my coachees from last year.
Mhm.
She was an introverted style person, and she had a really tough time doing what she called, small talk.
Mm,
And so we did some exercises around that and put her to work, and she realized the strength that comes from just asking somebody about something that is
mhm.
not work related. You know,
Right.
how's the cat? How's your mom? I
Mm,
heard you got a new bike you're riding to work with. How is
sure.
it? You know, I heard you moved. What's your apartment like? Any little thing. It doesn't have to be deep. It
Hmm.
doesn't have to be invasive by, that's what I mean by deep, but it's meaningful. And now that person feels that you see them as a person.
Hmm.
And now your personal brand is, oh, she's approachable, she's relatable, or he's
Mm,
compassionate, right? So
mhm.
again, the words will shift depending on how your personal
Right.
brand is going.
Right. So again, what I love about what you just said was you broke down kind of a process, if you will, one of your clients went through of
Yeah,
just of overcoming the fear, if you will, of small talk and not
yeah,
really wanting to engage in small talk. But you broke it down and just said how simple questions, and this is what I want to say to this group, because you've heard this, if you watched some of the other videos, you've heard this a little bit before. Make a connection. And making a connection with people is just simply asking a question, maybe an open ended question that allows them to actually elaborate and talk more rather than just a simple
yeah.
yes or no answer.
That's right.
Right.
I call it take us back to school, right? We had different variations of being questioned about our knowledge.
Yep.
Open ended, there's an essay answer ready and waiting. The multiple answers, limits your information and limits your connection. And then even worse, the true or false, or in this
Right.
case, yes or no questions, it limits the conversation again
Yep.
and doesn't allow you to have a connection with the person.
Well, I
So
think yes and no questions, honestly, to me, they kind of end the conversation. They end the connection.
yeah,
And
yeah,
when you ask an open ended, empowering question, which is a question that allows the person you're talking to really engage in a conversation and provide an answer to you that is more than one word, that's when you
yeah.
start to make a meaningful connection. So, as two coaches, we could go down this rabbit hole of connection and all that, but I want to come back to about personal branding, and I want to talk for a minute about what can somebody do to really understand what their current brand is today?
Mm. You know, I'm going to default back to the asking people.
Mm,
Years ago, I haven't done it in a while, but years ago, um, for personal reasons, I was trying to advance myself, and I wanted to find out what are the words that people think of me. And so on a Facebook dare, if you will, I made myself vulnerable and I opened myself up to the feedback. And I simply put out, I don't remember how many friends I had on Facebook at that point, but I just put the post and said, write the first word that you think of when you think of me.
mm,
And I got some very interesting, eye-opening feedback. You know, some people saw me as funny, some people saw me as very timely, which I would not. You know, I got such random,
mhm,
varied answers, I should say, and many of them resonated with who I thought I was showing up as. You know, the
sure.
majority did, but then there were a few outliers that woke me up to say, I wonder what that's about. I wonder what I was doing at that time in my life when I was closest to that person.
Mhm,
You know, so anyway, that again is the exercise that I would do is open yourself up to receiving input from others to find out how are you showing up. Reflect on performance reviews. Although those can be you know, they can feel like a scrutiny, sometimes feel unfair. There may be some nuggets of wisdom in there about what you're
mhm,
showing up as, how you're showing up. Is your work ethic showing the way you intended it to?
mhm.
Is your teamwork effort showing up the way you intended it to? So I would do a few of those reflection pieces,
Okay.
which of course means collecting input, and I
Mhm,
think for that reason, many of us don't do it because
mhm.
it's a vulnerable place to
Sure.
be, to ask
Mhm.
people, what do you think of me in one word?
Yep. So stepping into vulnerability can be super hard for people.
Sure,
And, you know, what you did was you asked publicly to your Facebook
I did.
following, you know, hey, tell me. So you know what, if people don't want to step and be that vulnerable and open it up to
Yeah.
comedians, because we all have that friendly comedian that is
Oh,
our
they were there.
we all have that comedian who's our friend, who's going to be a smart aleck in there and not really understand what you're trying to do. You can do exactly the same thing by just email.
Yes, you could. You could do it by email. Absolutely.
Or you could call a
Um,
friend and have the conversation with the friend.
that's right. And, I think the important thing to remember here is I did it publicly because I wanted to hit people that I was close to as well as people who I was not
Oh,
close to anymore. Because
sure.
I don't know if your experience with starting Facebook, I started it to stay connected with my long distance friends who, because I moved several times in my 20s and 30s. What entered into my world was all my high school friends.
Mhm.
And I didn't expect that. So when I
Right.
say people I'm close to versus people I was less close to, I did put it out there publicly because I wanted the
Okay.
random sampling.
Okay.
And so, with your suggestion here, absolutely. If this is a very uncomfortable place for you, narrow it down. Think 25 people.
Mhm.
Think my closest top 10. But what I want you to do is make sure that you get a variety of opinions and you don't just go to the people who you think are going to tell you what you want to hear.
Oh,
Um,
I love that. Variety. Go to a variety of people and people that are going to give you more than what you want to hear. That's so important
yeah,
because you really
yeah,
want to step into what the real components of your brand are. And one way you can do that is by asking people. So if you are unemployed and you are looking for work, asking coworkers, maybe
yes,
the coworkers that you were really close with, but also asking a couple of coworkers that maybe you had a kind of a not so good relationship with.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. And that speaks to another subject area I'd love to take this conversation to is the cleanup. So
Okay.
let's
Perfect.
say
Yeah.
let's say you're not in love with your personal brand that's online.
Mhm.
That's really the easiest spot to clean up.
Sure.
But what I loved about what you just said to trigger me was the trigger of what if I don't have a great relationship with somebody? What's my personal brand with that person? So
Hmm.
part of being authentic is being human.
Hmm.
And it's important that you go back and clean up that relationship. And so what I mean by that is have a heart to heart, have a conversation and say, you know, I know we haven't had the tightest working relationship, but I'd love to change that today. So I'm going to ask you, if you could sum me up in 3 words, what would those 3 words be? And then work on that relationship to counteract those 3 words.
Hmm.
So, in other words, apologize where you need to apologize. Own what you've contributed to the downfall of the relationship. We all have a contribution. What was yours?
Right.
And take ownership in order to adjust and shift your way of working together.
Hmm.
I think that's, it's harder again to clean up what's online, excuse me, what's done in person versus your relationship online. But
Sure.
online, you can delete posts, you can edit, you can, get rid of tags, you can do all of that stuff. You can
Hmm.
set your privacy settings tighter. You can do all of that stuff to eliminate those items that might not have made you look so great.
Sure.
But in person, it's a matter of rebuild relationships to
Right.
clean up your personal brand.
So basically, what I heard was you got to clean up a little bit. If you don't know what your brand is, go ask people what your brand is. Do a survey, if you will. Look at a variety of people. Uncover what your brand is. Highlight the top 3 words or 4 attributes of what people have said
Yeah,
consistently, and
yeah,
then start the cleanup. So if you need to
yeah,
kind of fix it or modify it, then start the cleanup. Look at your social platforms and
right.
really make the tough decision and stick it. This is about being vulnerable, guys. Step into that vulnerability to pick up the phone and have a conversation with somebody that maybe the relationship didn't end well, to fix it and to
Yeah,
really understand, because you're probably going to get the greatest learning from that person
yeah,
rather than the person that you're closest to or your high school best friend or something like that. You're going to get the greatest learning
that's
from the
right.
person you had a contentious relationship with.
That's right. That's right. And even if it's, I mean, take yourself back in time. Again, relook at performance reviews to collect the themes that showed up from multiple
Mhm.
jobs that you've had, if you have those. Um, Look at what would a leader who maybe had to terminate you or put you on a disciplinary performance review, any of those kinds of relationships might feel tense, that your personal brand has been tarnished a little bit. Go back to that, relook at it, see what is still true today, if anything, about your behaviors and your actions and what you're standing for. And if necessary, like you said, repair the relationship if needed.
So you just said something, and I appreciate you recapping that. I had those in my notes, but I appreciate you recapping that. Go back, right? And be open to receive the feedback as a gift, right? Receive the feedback as a gift. And then, one of the things you just said was about if anything, right? So if anything comes up that resonates with you, write it down. If anything comes up from the past that you can solve, write it down, right? Try to repair those bridges. That if anything, I really liked that comment about that. In moving forward, right? Don't let it hold you back.
Right. Right. I think it's important that, many of us out there are striving for self-improvement. And I have a good friend who she too does it, but she said, at what point do you just love yourself as is and stop trying to fix things? And, there's always tweaks and polishing that you can do for staying relevant and staying current. And I think self-improvement is a lifelong process. So I giggle with her at her demise, but, I tell her, I think it's a lifelong learning process. If you're stopping learning, that means you're stopping growing, which means you probably have no pulse anymore. So
it's a journey, right? It's a journey.
Yeah.
Growth and improvement is a journey that has no final destination. You never actually really get there. You just keep growing. You just keep doing. As long as you're investing in yourself, you just keep growing. You just keep doing. It is truly a journey. And honestly, guys, to bring this back in, and we've been on about 20 minutes now, but it's a journey finding a job. You're on a journey of growth and development, and your brand, which is why we wanted to bring this conversation to you, is so important about the development and the cleanup of your brand. So Amy, what final parting words of advice, wisdom, guidance would you give to people about their personal brand?
Well, I love that you just reminded us this is a journey and this is a growth process. So your brand should grow with you. And what I mean by that, what people might have said about me 20 years ago, some of that is my core. So that's going to remain true and steady because it's authentically me. The rest of it, if you look at my career and the variety of opportunities that I grabbed onto and the things that I've made happen by choice and design of my life, people would term that as, the thriving on change or whatnot. So again, your brand will shift with you as you grow, yet it's important to make sure it stays authentic to you throughout. That's my key message, I think, when it comes to making sure your brand is something people want to connect to.
All right. So your brand can shift as you grow and develop, as you change jobs, your brand can shift, and it's okay that your brand shifts and changes. Just be authentically you throughout the entire journey process.
Yeah.
All right, Amy, I appreciate you joining me for this chat about personal brand. Hey, guys, I hope that you got some amazing value out of the tips and information that Amy provided. So, Amy, if our community wants to connect with you, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
I would say visit my website, which is 3shoesinc.com. That's the number 3 shoes, and Inc. is short for incorporated, so that's 3shoesinc.com.
And hey, guys, when you go out there, check out the logo. Amy's got a really cool logo out there, so check that out. And if we can do anything to continue to support you on this journey, please reach out. And I hope that you found these videos and this information to be supportive to you. And good luck to you out there, and get up every day and take one step forward, living your best life and accomplishing your goals and your dreams. Take care.
Bye.